From Mixing Babies in Business, back again with another car park live stream. And look at this. It snowed another 5 to 10 centimeters yesterday, and it's below zero now. I think it's going to get a bit warmer soon, but I'm back this week sharing a follow-on from last week. So I was starting to tell you about patterns or trends that I've noticed over the years that are going to get you more Q&A or help your talk or your pitch stand out more. So I kind of alluded to it last week. I started talking about the audience, the type of audience that you are speaking with. And this week, I'm going to share a bit about the style of talk. So I've done a few different styles over the years, but I think a good place to start from is, how do you want people to feel after they've listened to you? Do you want them to feel inspired that they can go and do the thing that you're speaking about? Do you want them to feel like they've learned a new skill in that time, if it's a workshop or a longer session, or you've done a bit of DIY instruction during it? Do you want them to feel confident leaving the session that they can take that knowledge and implement it straight away, or experiment with a new strategy or way of doing something? So there's inspiration, there's education, there's, I guess I've got some examples around storytelling. So depending on yourself and the state that you're in as a parent, I've got a few different examples for you. So for one session I did, I was on a Startup Vancouver panel with a few other parents, and the theme of the talk was parentpreneurs and something about how they're balancing it all or not balancing it all, or doing business around kids. And I was pregnant when I was on this panel. I believe it was September or October, and I was due in January, and I was still really sick. And it got to the day of the talk. We were supposed to be doing like a live kind of like round table, pass the mic kind of panel, but it was all virtual. So we were all tuning in from different parts around Canada. And it was hosted in Vancouver, 3 hours ahead of where I was in Ottawa. And so I messaged them on the day, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do the live version because I was still getting physically ill. So I pre-recorded my talk. I did it as it was like a storytelling of my experience bringing kids into business settings, and really just kind of like a story arc of a talk of, this is how it started, this is what happened, this is what I did. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to do that, because then if I need to get sick while the other ones are speaking, I can go and do that. And then there was a Q&A portion at the end where we all did, like, it was an open to the audience Q&A. So people would ask me questions and I could unmute and speak. And because I had pre-recorded my talk earlier in the day, I was wearing the same thing. So I just wore the same thing as what I did my video in. And so it ended up being okay. But what I wanted the audience to take away from that was that they could do this too, that you don't have to show up perfect. I think I mentioned in the recording, I'm really sick right now, and it's hit or miss every day, and I just keep going and seeing how far I can go, or seeing how much I can do each day. And so I wanted people to listen to my story and see themselves in it and feel like they could do that too. And I knew I only had to interact with people during the Q&A portion, and I didn't have to worry about, like, running, ducking down under my desk like that movie that Katherine Heigl's in. I can't remember what it's called, but it's about her getting pregnant. And she's a broadcast producer or something, and she's in the newsroom or the editing room, and she keeps getting sick. So that was me, 2021, for the Startup Vancouver panel. Definitely was feeling that experience. So that was an example of inspiration storytelling. Another one would be Creative Mornings. So I did Creative Mornings April 2019, while baby wearing he was not quite, he can hear some noise. It's ice from the trees falling off onto my car, ice and snow melting. And I'll show you at the end of this video, if you missed the beginning, if you're just tuning in, what the trees look like. It's kind of like a postcard right now, but April 9th, snow on trees wasn't really what we were hoping for. But yeah, back to the different styles of talks. So creative mornings is more, you're trying to like plant ideas, plant seeds, change people's thinking. And I, again, was doing kind of like I want to say round robin or round table version. It was called lightning talks. So we each had 5 minutes to do a talk. And then at the end, we came together on a panel. So again, logistically important to think about. So I had a 11-month-old or 10-month-old with me and a not quite 3-year-old. So they were both turning 1 and 3 that summer. And so my not quite 3-year-old, I brought him some books, a little car, a few things to play with. And one of the volunteers for Creative Mornings had said, hey, I'll help look after him and I'll get him a snack. And if he needs to sit in the seats at the front row to watch you, he can. But if he wants to run up on stage while you're presenting, which he did, that's fine too. So she was very nice. Her name's Amber. I will try to tag her in the not the show notes, but the description or the caption for this. Because yeah, Angel Amber was helping me with our oldest, who is not quite 3. And the baby at the start, our second kid, was in the baby carrier at the start. And then once I grabbed the mic and started speaking, he decided he didn't want to be in the baby carrier anymore. So for that talk, I had written out like a script. I had my notes, which I couldn't really read, but I had just in case I forgot what I was going to say. I was still breastfeeding for that talk. So I was feeding the baby before I went on stage, and then I fed him after while the other people did their talks. And then we went back on at the end, maybe like 20 minutes later, for the panel at the end. And both the kids were on the panel with me while we sat in chairs, but that was a bit easier to manage because we were sitting down. But all of the topics had to be on inclusion. So my talk centered around creating parent-friendly business spaces and experiences. And if you've seen me on LinkedIn or you've seen my website, mixingbabiesinbusiness.com, you'll probably see a lot of photos from that talk, because that was the first time I made a branded slide deck about what I was trying to say and gave advice to people on creating more accessible spaces and events for parents. So I wanted to not only inspire people in the audience who might be parents and might want to do the thing that I'm doing, I also, just turning here because the sun is kind of weird. I also wanted to give event planners and creatives and decision makers and people who are hosting events the tools and the ideas that they could take to either decision makers on their team to experiment with things in their business space or with their events, so that they could try to, test and tweak different styles of events, different setups, so that parents would feel more accommodated or more welcome. So that was kind of like a double whammy. The first part of it was only 5 minutes, but like the first slides were about my journey, inspiring people. And the second part was more about educational awareness. I don't want to say technical because it wasn't super technical, but the practicalities of hosting parent-friendly events. Excuse me. It's 9:30 here and I haven't talked to many people yet this morning. So that's an example of like inspiration with education. And then there was Q&A at the end. And then the third, I would say, is more straight educational, technical, like upskilling type presentation that I've done, where it's focused on digital skills. So digital marketing. Years ago, before I had kids, I was leading workshops for B2B clients or attendees on implementing social media, using essentially digital marketing for your business, and why you want to use social media, why you want to use content marketing, and how you can use it to stay on top of news in your industry, but also share your own story, raise awareness, network with other people, secure partnerships, things like that. So I did a workshop, which was, I believe, under an hour. It might have been 90 minutes, but there was 40 to 50 people in the workshop, and it was kind of like a done with you workshop. So this was here's the information, here's why you might want to use it, here's the awareness about the tools, here's the technicalities of how we do it, and now get out your device, because you're going to do this with me in real time. And because the conference was, I think, over 2 days, it might have been over like 3 if you include like after party or some people would have meetups before and after, but I was on day 1 of the conference, and that was like strategic in that they wanted people to be experimenting with these tools and using it. This was 2012, so it was getting people to, or 2013 I should say, I think that one, but still like 12 years ago, 13 years ago, getting people to use the tools in real time, bring your own device type workshop, and then get PR for your company or use that in real time at the conference. So those are the 3 kind of main styles that I would say that I've done as a parent and before becoming a parent. They've been like educational, technical, storytelling, inspirational, and I guess, I don't know, they kind of like overlap all of them. But you want to think about, how does your audience want to feel when they go out of that session? And the ones that are easy to remember, the ones that are, sorry, I have to change hands again here. The ones that are easy to remember, the memorable talks, are usually the ones that have storytelling. And they are the ones that people can see themselves in. They are the ones that people can resonate with. They can laugh with. They sometimes cry during them. They can recognize themselves or their loved ones or their colleagues or somebody. Like there's like a light bulb moment in your talk where they are not aware of the problem going in. You're educating them, you're informing them on the problem, and then you're leading them through what this is like and what the solution is, or what the potential solutions are, or the different ideas that you can have to improve upon these problems. And you're kind of taking the audience on a journey with you for these inspirational storytelling kind of versions. So you want them to feel like they're like co-collaborating with you on solving this problem or solving this issue. And then same with the educational or technical style talks, you're still co-collaborating because that's more of a workshop style thing. That's like a done with you opportunity where you can kind of bounce ideas off of the audience. They can submit their problems or ask you questions based on their unique situation. And you'll get questions related to either the person has never realized that this is a problem, or they're trying to better understand where you're coming from. So you'll get questions from people who are trying to get their head around what you're saying in real time. That's the kind of questions I've had, especially with the inspirational storytelling type talks, especially if they don't have lived experience of what you're sharing, but they can now see through your visuals, through the way you're delivering it, through your anecdotes, they can see clearly that this is something that they haven't considered or that they want to help make better. And then you'll get the questions that are more technical, specific to their situation, that they want to go and they want to take away something and they want to implement and test. So you'll get people that are asking kind of like minimum viable product type questions of like, what can I do? Or what is the simplest way? And a good way to empower your audience and to leave them inspired before they leave your talk is to give them some examples of how they can do it, to give them kind of some homework or to give them some next steps around the time that you're doing your key takeaways or your recap. So if you haven't watched all my carpark live streams to date, I do kind of like build on these things each week. And I started at the beginning a few weeks back, or a couple months back now, talking about how I frame my talks and how I go through the concepts of what I'm covering. So it's good if you can go back and rewatch those. And they're all done from my car. They're all done. It's something I just started in January, so I'll show you outside again. It's still winter here. It's April 9th now. I don't know what's going on. When we first moved here, I think the first winter it might have been snowing in May, which I really hope that doesn't happen again this year. But this is Canada. This is Ottawa, Canada. Sometimes you get winter later than March. But thanks for tuning in.